question that. All right, so just getting started with the podcast of champions, where we invite everybody to join us wherever you may be. Log on to Sakar, join us there. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'd love to have you on for a live chat at some point. Today, though, we're going with a heavy dose of Star Trek, which is something we haven't done yet, but I know Wellibers is looking forward to. And we've got a new member on today, yet again, Lord Deathman, who is on audio only for anybody watching, who also wants to talk some Trek.
Everyone.
Welcome. How you doing, sir?
Good. Lord Deathman here. Sorry to cut you off there, Stanton, but just want to give a shout out to all my friends at Sakar and Nowhere, friends and enemies, you know. But thanks for having me on the podcast today.
Well, I heard death comes for everybody, whether you're a friend or an enemy. So.
Is that very Thanos-like?
Indeed. Apologies that you all don't get to look upon the face of death today, but who knows? Let's see how this goes. Yeah. Right
and on. I was so much looking forward to watching, facing death in the face.
And also back with us today is ShadowBiz. How you doing, sir?
Good. Looking forward to the Star Trek show. I'll try and fit in whatever I can.
All right. So we're gonna, just for the record, we're gonna talk some old Trek, we're gonna talk some new Trek, and then at the end here we might get to some Marvel Netflix news and speculation. So we'll see where that goes. But let's see, just to get into some Trek talk, and to kind of give you guys where I was. I was never like a super huge Trek fan. I mean, I was always into it. I enjoyed it, right? But I wasn't like vastly knowledgeable of it. My biggest experiences with Trek were I guess pretty typical. Wrath of Khan, love me some Wrath of Khan, and my actual favorite Trek film, even to this day, is Undiscovered Country. I love Undiscovered Country. I just like the kind of the message of it. I like how it ends. I like it sends the original cast off on like a really great note. I love the ending where he just gives the Peter Pan second star to the right quote, and I think that's all amazing. I love that movie. But I never really watched the series. I never got into Next Generation really. I was aware of it and kind of followed it a little bit, but not really. I never really got into it. But I don't know. Where's everybody else sort of fit in on your Trek history? We'll maybe start with Wellibers. What's kind of your Trek history, sir?
I actually started with Voyager, and I was bored. I went to the store, saw I had seen Star Trek before on TV, and I figure, hey, Star Trek Voyager season 1 was there, so I bought it. I started watching. Next day, I was already back at the store to buy season 2, and it went downhill from there. And I watched it all, and I've been a committed fan ever since. Next Generation, the original series, I did see once completely. But my favorite Trek show is Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I've been following this franchise ever since for 25 years.
That's it's extensive. Now I know Deathman. I know you were also a significantly more experienced fan than I am. But where did you kind of come at it, and how much what shows have you seen? What have been your favorite? What's your overall experience?
Right. Good choices there, Grandmaster. Well done. My own trajectory into the Star Trek fandom has, like a lot of folks, I started out with the original series, early episodes, Kirk, Spock, Bones, the holy trinity of Star Trek, I guess. And season 1 just really brought me into it. Some of the classic episodes, still some of my favorite episodes are from season 1. Charlie X, The Naked Time, Dagger of the Mind. There's at least 5 or 6 great ones in that first season, and I think there comes a time when you have to sort of decide whether you're more of a Star Trek person or a Star Wars person, and there's just something about the sort of paramilitary experience going on in Star Trek that sort of got me there. There's something for conservative folks and liberal folks in Star Trek. It's always been a little progressive, but yet you're following this kind of pseudo paramilitary peacekeeping sort of organization throughout space. But favorite series is Deep Space Nine, so I'm right there with you, Wellibers. That's the series that, as a kid got me to kind of stand up straight and really sort of be that guy. I think Cisco sort of is the blunt instrument of the Star Trek world. But seen them all. Voyager is a strange place to come in, Wellibers. So I'm going to say that right now, with all due respect to you. But Voyager, I don't know if I'd be the fan I was today if I came in at Voyager, although I love the show. But that's more or less my experience. I've been up and down Star Trek canon, rewatched a lot of things, and I'm there with the movies. Right there with you, Stanton, on Undiscovered Country. Great film. Although I have to say, in a very unpopular choice, my favorite Star Trek film, well, who am I kidding? It's probably The Wrath of Khan, but close second would be the motion picture. You don't get many science fiction movies that sort of have that flow and that tonality of not being so bombastic, being a little bit more cerebral.
I've always liked the Star Wars. I like that one especially because it ties into our history. I was going to get into that in just a second, but I love the fact that I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. Is it a spoiler to give away what's going on there? I love the fact that they encountered Voyager. I love that about the motion picture. That becomes a plot point and that it ties into our history. I just like that connection. I thought that was always cool. Biz, I know you're kind of like me. You haven't watched as much Trek as these two, but what's sort of your Trek experience, as much or as little as you have?
Well, the first film that I watched, I think, was the one with Tom Hardy, like Star Trek Nemesis. But I don't really remember it. Like, to be honest, I watched like a trailer before I came on the show. I mean, on the podcast, just to like kind of refresh my memory. I still don't really remember any of the details. But that's how I first got introduced to Star Trek. And then later on, I really got I picked up into it when I watched the J.J. Abrams film, Picard. And then I went into the old shows, like to see like a pilot here, to see how it was. Yeah, that's basically like how I got into it.
Nice. I was gonna toss something out to you guys. I didn't know what you thought of this, but this is what kind of like Trek started meaning to me, and this is kind of recently, like in the past couple of years. But so I follow a lot of like cosmology, just like real world study of space, like how far away like Proxima Centauri is from us. Like the expansion of the galaxy, just like real world physics that's been studied, and a lot's come out that I think is really interesting. But what got me sort of into Trek and watching like the original series was that idea of exploration of the galaxy, because like just as a human society, we're not at that we're going to venture to stars sort of level, but we're at a really interesting time where we're learning a lot about the galaxy, and I think Trek reflects that. Does that what it means to you guys, or does it mean something totally different? What do you think, Wellibers?
What is very important to me in Star Trek is the mimicking of actually our current society that has been going on since the 1960s. That's a very important element to me in Star Trek, and the search for humanity. Basically, to me, Star Trek is on the outside, it's more an exploration of space, but it's actually an exploration of the humankind. And that aspect is very, very important to me. And the search for your own humanity is reflected in Spock, in Data, Odo, all those characters that stand out from what we consider regular folk. And that's the part that always very much appealed to me, because now becomes a little bit personal. I am still searching for my own humanity, what's important to me, etc. And Trek has helped me in that regard as well. So that's the part that's really appealing to me.
That's actually really really cool. Deathman, you got any like perspective on any of that, or?
Yeah, for me, I think Star Trek has. This is a really tough one to articulate, but I'm going to try to be succinct here. For me, Star Trek, I think it's the idea that we made it in a nutshell. It sort of portrays a future where we're not kind of saddled with a lot of the issues of humanity. It's the utopia vision, right? And that's really what appealed to me about it. And it's not like utopia as this like fantastic place where we're all in perpetual ecstasy and that kind of stuff. It's utopia as a matter of fact. You know what? We got it. We did this. And, now we're looking to do something bigger. We want to find out about this whole universe that we're a part of. So there's that exploration piece. But the fact that you have really emotionally mature characters that are not powered by the standard sort of avarice and greed and careerism and the stuff that you kind of get faced with in everyday life, right? It's not so adversarial to be a human being. So Star Trek just has this incredibly humanist vision that I subscribe to fairly strongly. And as an aside, with the more modern Star Trek, I don't know how they're that through line. I'd like to do a little scorecard on them. But that's essentially what appeals to me about it.
Guys, that's incredible stuff, man. Seriously, from both, like just the humanity side of it from both of you. That's really it's really way deeper than I think a lot of people give it credit for. And sometimes I haven't even thought about this stuff. Biz, you got any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, I mean, like Star Trek, like a lot of science fiction movies, in some ways they do kind of reflect a futuristic, possible futuristic reality. So the way I see Star Trek is just like way back in the colonial times, like people were discovering the new world, went on the voyages with like actual ships, like sea ships, not spaceships. And then now we're branching out into space with Elon Musk, like his mission to Mars. And like it's always like a quest to gain more knowledge and seek what's out there, gain new experiences, meet other life forms. I mean, I think Star Trek it depicts it in a good way where it's advanced, sure, but there's nothing too, like, I'd say, nothing too out there. I mean, I haven't watched all of Star Trek. I'm sure they have some pretty weird technologies, but for the most part, I think it's not too like unrealistic, because that's where we're heading. We're going to be a spacefaring civilization. Reach other star systems, other galaxies. Yeah.
I think that's like kind of an interesting idea. Do you guys remember when the first Apple Watch ad came out? And you just reminded me of this. It was like Star Trek people like talking on like wristwatches, and then they showed a clip of like, I think it was like the Predator like doing stuff on like wristwatches. They showed all this like future tech, and then they all of a sudden showed an Apple Watch, and it just kind of like hits you like how many steps we've come, and like that stuff like that isn't quite as far away as you kind of maybe used to think it was in the 60s or something when it came out. So I find that kind of advancement really interesting. But I don't know, guys. I think I think that's an excellent opening. I think that's a great like overall definition of like what the series can mean. But I know you two, especially Wellibers and the Lord Deathman here, were like kind of interested to get to some future stuff, and I think it's a good segue to like where Star Trek has gone now in the modern era. I know I don't know actually where you guys want to take this. I know you'd mentioned the Kelvin timeline and where that's going. We talked about. Do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I'm kind of chomping at the bit here. Grandmaster.